depending where in the world you're joining us from or when you're joining us. Today, we're very lucky to have with us three interesting guests on a working lunch with Nordin. Brahma is the handsome gentleman with a hat. We've got Ahillan as well, equally as handsome, and of course Devindran, who is very well known in Malaysia and around the region. So today we're here to talk about a little bit about a subject which is very interesting, which I know very little about, but I know that you guys are the experts. So I'm kind of very happy to talk about it, which is the auto industry and in particular the spare parts industry. And it's kind of this kind of industry shrouded in mystery, but it's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And so with that, I'm going to go over to you, Devindran, and I say, could every one of you just give us a quick introduction about yourselves and what are we talking about here today?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Nordin. Yeah, my name is Devindran. Can call me Dave. If you have a question to put on chat. I've been working all my life in the automotive industry, 20 years with the Sime Darby Group in Malaysia. In the last 10 years, very much on my own, with trading, consulting, and most recently in the last 3 years with our new setup with the team, both Brahma, Ahillan, and a couple of other shareholders. And we're here to talk about a very, very interesting topics with. I'm sure all of you are car owners. All of you have your car service. So shoot us with any questions during this session.
Brilliant. Brahma, over to you.
Hi, guys. Thanks, Nordin. I think this is the first time I've gone live in one of these live streams. We've never had this opportunity, and we hope the audience listening in today get to understand a bit more about the spare parts business in Malaysia and the region. It's one of those backroom functions that we find difficult even to let investors understand the problems we are trying to address. We went to market live commercially in about a year ago, just as the pandemic started. But we seem to get very good traction every time the lockdown gets more severe. What this shows is there are many people out there trying to buy things online, especially genuine auto parts. Thanks, Nordin.
No worries, Brahma. No worries.
We go along. Yeah.
I've got some questions for you because I've got an interesting story. But before I get to that story, Ahillan, tell us a bit about yourself and what's going on.
My past experience has been in investment banking in a few different cities. Recently, I have mainly focused on corporate and a few tech investments. And very, very happy and glad that we started this thing with myself, David, and Burma initially, and a few other guys now have joined us as well. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. And I love the name of your company, SpareXHub. For me, it's kind of like SpaceX. You're kind of like, so.
It took us some time to find the right, yeah.
It's really cool, but I've got a very interesting. Well, I wouldn't call it interesting, although it was a very good learning experience. Some years back, I had a car that had a massive gearbox problem, and then I went to the mechanic and said, okay, it's going to cost you like X $1,000 to fix it, and I was like, wow. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sell the car, and I ended up selling the car. I mean, maybe it's because I'm half Lebanese and Arabs are like, we would just get a new one, like this kind of cultural thing. But it was a nice car, but I just didn't know how to deal with it. And the other thing was I wasn't sure whether the guy was telling me the truth. And so it's kind of like a trust issue around spare parts. And I think 99% of most people's daily lives, you just go, you get in the car, as long as it's got petrol in it, you're going to work or going for a meeting and you don't think about it, except that one moment when something breaks down and then you're like, oh my God. And then you're at the mercy of all kinds of people. How important is what you're doing about creating trust for consumers? I mean, I know there's a whole bunch of other things, but I want to know about me right now. If this happens again, how do I deal with this problem?
Maybe I can answer that, Nordin. I think the first question would be if you had taken it to the workshop, just to understand, was it a franchise workshop or was it an independent workshop out there?
I think it was a franchise workshop, but if I remember correctly, I mean, this is a few years back, so
Right.
so yeah.
So yeah, I think if you look at Malaysia very quickly, we have one of the highest car ownership. We've got one of the highest sales numbers of cars within the ASEAN region after Thailand and Bangkok. And certainly, car is a big necessity. It's a status symbol. And buying a car itself, it breaks your bank account. But having it serviced is the most painful thing after going to the dentist. And sure, genuine parts are often perceived expensive. And I think what we've done with our e-commerce solution is certainly bring transparency and visibility of only genuine parts. We work with very forward-thinking dealers who carry substantial amount of parts which age, which are surplus as well, and they contribute to that aging. And eventually, they've come to the point to realize that the customers do not come back to these workshops. There's a huge number of independent workshops who service, I would say, 90% of the car population in a country like Malaysia, and I can say for the region as well. So what we've done is to at least provide a platform where our partners have come to agree and realize it's better to get something rather than nothing from these parts which they carry. And so, in terms of addressing the trust, you can be assured that all the parts that we carry on our platform are genuine and they are all from trusted sources who are all the franchise dealers in the region.
Brilliant, brilliant. I just want to say hi to Mariza, who's joining us from Jakarta. Walaikum salam. Thank you for joining us. Now, Shamita has asked us an interesting question. What should car owners be concerned about when visiting independent repair shops? Again, whenever you go there, they're like, okay, look, this is the thing that's broken, and they show you a part.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be showing you a part from a Mack truck for all I know, but so okay. But so, what do you guys think? Maybe over to you, Brahma. I mean, you seem to be smiling at this question. What's
Yeah,
going on?
I think traditionally all of us have our family mechanic who happens to be very nearby our house. I have a mechanic now who manages all the 6 cars that we have between 5 of us. And basically we take it. But good thing is my sons are very well clued into auto parts. So they are really my immediate consultants when I want to get something replaced in my car or any of our family cars. And I think most of us, if we do not have a mechanic, we have someone like Devindran, or we have like my 2 other co-founders, David McGowan, who all are from the industry. Or we rely on car owner clubs, to make sure that the parts we're getting is either original or the supplier is legit or the mechanic is trustworthy. So a lot of advocacy happens in this business. And I'm talking purely as someone who's been owning cars for the last almost 45 years of my life. And I'm sure everyone has an experience of their own to say. But certainly, as Devendran said, to echo what he said, we work with the importers, we work with the brand and the manufacturers. We try not to dilute our quality of the parts that we sell. Our internal experts basically scrutinize the parts before they are packed and shipped. And generally, our return rates are less than 1% at this point.
Wow, you're almost at that Sigma 6 level. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive, yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Now, Ahillan, one of the things Madeline has just asked us is, what are the different grades and quality of the spare parts? And for me, I mean, it just comes down to cost. Whenever I'm going for repairs, right, I'm just waiting for some guy to rip me off, and that's my thinking. So are there things that we should look at as consumers? And ironically, it's like that. In a sense, the smarter you are, the easier you are to trick in terms of in a workshop scenario, unless you really know about the car. So I want to know about the cost differentials and the grade differentials. Is there such thing that we could look at?
Ahillan, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think David, you answered that. Yeah.
Nordin, I think if you look at the Malaysia context, there are like about 1,000 franchise dealers. The Sime Darbys, the Perudua outlets, the Tanchong, the Toyotas, and there are close to 15 to 20,000 independent workshops out there who specialize in tires, electrical, aircon, and a big portion, almost 80 to 90% of the business is done by the independent out there. And these are mainly for cars post warranty, ranging from cars above 2 years, 3 years. Customers start hopping out into to the aftermarket. And as you were asked, with regards to what you just asked on quality of parts, you must understand today that there is a various range of parts today, different grades of parts. The highest being the genuine, which are packed in the manufacturer's box and only available when you visit a franchise dealer. And just below that, there are the OEMs, the aftermarkets, and the second-hand goods, and even the spurious parts, the copy parts. So you've got to be very, very careful, because once you hop out to the independent workshops, these are the sources of parts that most of them have access to. And this is where there are very good independent workshops, and there are also some which are questionable. And you need a trusted workshop. And the quality differs significantly. The price also can be, an OEM, which is the second quality, could be half the price of a genuine. And the aftermarket could be 25% the price of a genuine. So they are quite significant different price levels. And again, they're out there because there is demand for these parts. As cars get older, the value of the car, second-hand value of these cars, as someone asked, it's exactly half after 5 years. And how many of us could really afford a genuine part, So they hop for second-hand parts or lower quality aftermarket parts.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to kind of get to was in Malaysia. I before, when we were allowed to travel, I went on a trip to Thailand, and there was one of the guys in the trip. He went to buy a whole bunch of parts in Thailand for his car. I mean, so he was in that other group of people who was like car enthusiast. He wanted to get this carburetor and this rear vision lights, and he packed it into the thing. So where is Malaysia in the region in that sense, in terms of car parts and that whole industry around it, especially for those who are actually looking for really good quality stuff in terms of making their car faster, or those stay to the speed limit, everyone, like this kind of stuff?
Nordin, Malaysia has got a very strong component manufacturing industry. Close to 600 component manufacturers here who supply to various, supply chain of manufacturers out there. The big ones, there's so many big ones out there based in the Penang Free Trade area, based around the Proton assembly plant, and the Produa Surenda plant. So we have a very strong manufacturing base. Thailand, certainly, they're also ahead of the game. There's a lot of interest and passion for the older cars, collectors' cars, for modifying cars. And you're right, it's a huge four-wheel drive market. So if someone goes to Thailand and if he drives across the border, he's already got access to, certainly good quality, affordable accessories, merchandise, modification parts as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Malaysia too certainly has done well. We are a big source of components which very few know, and when we hear about the disruptions of manufacturing because of shortage of chips, you'll be surprised that a lot of them also significantly stamp out from Malaysia. Due to the shutdown and due to the inability to produce this, which is a big supply towards the whole global industry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We've got another question, and I didn't even think about this. What about remanufactured parts? How is that going into the supply chain?
Remanufactured parts are done by manufacturers. They're also done by, to the simplest of a potong kereta guy, who's selling some of his alternator, starter motor, and there's someone who buys it and someone who's really going to, make it good again, by rewiring the internal conductors or whatever. So it's huge. Manufacturers today, there's a huge cost. You mentioned just now about maybe buying an engine or a gearbox, which is expensive, and the fault could be maybe just some internal component, running component. So what manufacturers do, and even any local remanufacturers would certainly buy the whole unit again and back, and maybe make good, retain the carcass, and then but certainly work on some of the internal components. So it is a big industry. I think in terms of Malaysia, there is no wastage of some of these parts. And I think today e-commerce has also enabled that. What we are doing with our e-commerce, ensuring there's no waste or idle parts lying in the shelves of car companies. We just want consumers to have that benefit of having access to discounted genuine parts.
Nice, nice. Brahma, you wanted to add anything to that idea?
Yeah, I think the other day one of the journalists who interviewed us, Devin, actually picked up on the fact that we may be looking at being supporting all these various sustainable development goals, because from what I understood when I first got into this business with Devindran, is manufacturers or importers, if the parts are sitting too long at the dealer or the warehouse, they actually scrap it, they actually destroy it, and I thought, what a shame. When they've got shelf life, or they can be with very minimal upgrade or repair, can be put back in the market. There's one question here: what if someone's car is already very old and they don't want to spend too much on it? And here's where someone like us comes in and say, okay, you can still get a genuine part, rather than go to the scrap yard. Why don't we recycle it, or we, clean it up and give it to you at a really good discount, so you enjoy a safe and comfortable drive? So I didn't realize that, Devin, but I think there is an angle here in terms of making sure it doesn't end up at the bottom of the sea, or scrapped out into metal and dumped in some dump site, which would be very sad. So I think we contribute to some sustainable development goals as well.
Definitely.
No, very nice. I think this idea of managing carbon footprints, managing these material costs are very important. Now, Ahillan, you've been enjoying yourself down there in the corner, behaving yourself nicely and getting away with not answering any questions.
He's probably the only one having lunch, I think.
Exactly. This is a working lunch. You've got to work for your lunch. I mean, usually we have this show over a lunch, and I apologize for having to do it virtually, but with COVID-19. Now, I was going to say SpaceX, SpareXHub is a startup, is a growing concern. What is available there for investors to be involved in this company?
So investors, I think, generally will be keen, given that this business is a very niche business. It's sometimes, for a lack of better word, some investors don't really find it relatable per se. But if you ask someone who is involved, like say in the automobile industry as a whole, whether it's a Sime Darby Group or a Qasem, there are a lot of synergies between ourselves and them. How they infer it or perceive it, that's everyone's perspective. But for our investor base, we were lucky that we had two angel investors who propelled this business initially. They are still very much involved. They also assist us in introducing us to various different other channels of fundraising. But going forward, I think the kind of preferable investor would be more so of a strategic partner, a trade partner, whether he's a logistics guy or whether he's a distributor or a second-hand car sales entity. It's not really, I wouldn't think, I could be wrong, but it's not so much, I think, kind of applicable to the VC, the venture capital space. So we do look for individuals. We definitely need to fundraise to further our expansion into Southeast Asia and also increase our product range and offering, and also build upon our marketing efforts and IT infrastructure as well.
One of the things that, of course, you guys have pioneered some interesting technology, and I think that's part of your ability to manage the supply chain in a different way. But in terms of long-term growth of the auto industry, what are you guys projecting in terms of the shift towards electrification? It's a big word for me. I'm dyslexic. So what are you guys projecting there? Is there also going to be a spare parts industry for EVs?
I think, Devin, you should take this up. Interestingly, Devin gave a chat on a dealers conference for BMW in Indonesia. Devin?
Yeah. Nordin, not many people understand the numbers, but on a average, maybe a premium segment car like a BMW, which we are very much involved, there's 23,000 components. These are unique part numbers. A big portion of it is on your engine. A significant portion is engine and gearbox parts. With electric, with EV, and of course, everyone's asked us this question: what happened with EV moving forward? EV would do without a petrol or diesel engine, also do without a gearbox, but there are still 80%, 90% of parts which are still required from its suspension, from drive, and there are a lot of other various components. So yes, EVs there'll be a drop of components on EV, but it's not going to happen overnight. I would say it'll be a good 10 years before you see a significant number of contribution of EV sales in a country in this part of the world. And I think for the time being, I think what I just wanted to just follow up on what Ahillan said. It's an industry which is there's a rampant amount of parts, from aftermarket parts, different quality. Many do not see it as sexy. They like the new car, the launches. From where I come from when we worked in the aftermarket, we were always like the back room boys. It was not the sexy area. The new cars was it. And today you would also equally see a lot of new and used car buying platforms. You've heard of Casa, My2Car, Carousel, MyEG. Everyone is jumping on it. But at a workshop level, there are some new aggregators like what Foreman is doing and a couple of others. But in terms of spare parts, and this is the last frontier, not anyone, the entry barrier is so high because you need to have knowledge, expertise, and you need to understand the entire market. This is an area where there is no presence, almost. There is customers are online and they are looking for parts, and we are here. That's why ahead of the game, I would say. There is a huge market need, and sticking on, just solely on genuine parts, we feel there is a significant amount of, opportunities for companies who wish to, work with us.
Interesting. I was just thinking now, I mean, we're talking about very much a B2C relationship in that sense, like consumers are concerned about how to get the right part that they need. The mechanic said, oh, there's something wrong with your carburetor or this kind of thing. This is the problem. But what about companies who have large fleets and they've got obviously a maintenance team involved and they've got, their own mechanics and their own team. How can they then plug into your system, into your business? And how can you start to save money for those big logistics companies, those big delivery companies where we've seen massive growth in that, especially in the last 2 years with COVID-19. But at the same time, probably roundabout now is when all those new cars and new delivery vehicles that they started to buy to meet demand are going to need maintenance. How can you help those guys save money?
David, if I can just say, very recently, I won't mention the name, but a very large a taxi company that runs taxis. They're one of the largest when it comes to city drives. They contacted us because they're maintaining about 1,500 vehicles. Although they are Protons, Toyotas, and I think in the premium class they're using Hyundai, I think. And two things that happens when you own a large fleet. If you want to keep the life of the car a bit longer and you want to give comfort to your passengers, then making sure you get genuine parts to one, increase comfort, safety, and of course the drive, and also enhance the longevity of your vehicle. So large fleet owners have realized that, as David said, there's just too many spurious parts, fake parts in the city. They contacted us saying, can they work with us to actually make sure they get discounted, genuine parts? And I think there will be a move in that commercial vehicle area. Right now, at the moment, we are dealing with passenger cars ourselves, but certainly the platform can eventually serve commercial vehicles, large fleet groups. But as David says, the mindset of the owners, the business owners, must take a longer term view when they replace parts in their vehicles to ensure safety, to ensure ride. I mean, we have seen quite horrendous accidents happening when a bus coming down Genting Highland crashes into a ravine and, 38 people die, only to find the brakes have not been either maintained or they're not fitted with genuine brakes.
Yeah.
So I think there is a role for someone like us, even if the margins are very thin when you manage that level of business. The point is it brings, it encourages the whole industry. And I think, David, I can also mention we're talking to insurance companies. They are very happy to make sure that the insurance market, workshops registered with insurance companies and claims, actually contact us, to make sure that once the parts have been approved, that genuine parts are bought from us, especially get it discounted to meet the insurance packaging. So there is growth potential in that area, Nordin.
Nice. Because I think this is one of the areas that actually, when you start to dig into it, on the first level, you realize, oh, okay, it's spare parts. Like, great, I'll just get it. But the reality is now there is that massive trend to go online. People will do a little bit more research, and it's at the tip of your fingers in terms of what Dr. Google can deliver for us. We've got your short video. So I want to play that if possible, Diong, and Devindran, if you could give us a little bit of an understanding of what we are looking at, and give us an idea of how do consumers plug into what you are doing.
Sure. For many of you can still look at your screen. Yeah, we believed in that every part has a car out there. An interesting paradox, and there are a lot of these parts which are, as I mentioned, sitting on the shelf, genuine parts on the shelves of very forward-thinking car companies who realize today that many of these customers are already out there in the independent workshop side of the business. They don't want to miss out on trying to get in touch with them. They're probably second or third owners, and they're coming forward, working with us, ensuring that their parts are given visibility. It's better to have 20% of something rather than 100% of nothing, kind of attitude. And in the process, customers who are today holding on to their cars longer, trust genuine parts. The perception of parts being expensive is taken out when you see the kind of discounts up to 70% on our platform, on our website. With a simple clicks, everything, the whole back end, from ordering, taking deliveries, the logistic part, and fitting these cars, fitting these parts. Even I've recommended workshops or back to the franchise dealers. It's provided for in the platform. We've today, I would say, grown to various other brands besides BMW, MINI, Porsche. We also carry Jaguar, Land Rover, Bentley parts, and we're slowly scaling up with, I would say, very modern companies who do not want to miss out on this opportunity out there today. The parts are, as long as they sit on the shelf, that's where your capital is locked in, rather than keeping and increasingly paying your holding costs. They want customers and consumers out there to benefit from these genuine parts.
Nice, nice. Now, I just had another thought while we were discussing about supply chains. Globally, we've seen massive problems with supply chains in the food industry and in commodities, and I would imagine at the end of a supply chain that like the auto parts industry is also going to face a lot of these supply chain issues.
Yeah.
What advantages does again? I keep wanting to say SpaceX. What advantages does SpareXHub give to dealers who are facing supply chain issues, and how can they use you as a resource as opposed to, like what you said earlier, dumping so much money into all this holding costs? How can they say, okay, let's shorten the supply chain, let's reduce the holding costs, and at the same time deal with this global problem, which is going to be with us for the next couple of years in terms of moving things around the globe, and how are you guys delivering on this for the dealers?
Okay, I think you've asked quite a few questions there, so maybe I'll try and answer some of them. On the technology side, obviously, it's a new thing for the dealerships because all their sales are done through their showroom. All their part sales are currently done through their franchise workshops only. Once, as Devin says, your warranty is up, almost 80-90% of the car owners don't go back to their dealership. They go back to their friendly mechanic, or someone recommends a mechanic. So they lose that channel, that particular sales channel. I think in the industry is called the fourth level sales. And where we come in is we bridge that gap. So on the technology side, it's something the seller, in this case the dealer, welcomes, because it's not something they want to set up. Their business processes are not geared to over-the-counter sales at a massive scale, especially with fourth parties coming to buy stuff. Fourthly, they can't entertain returns. If they sell it to somebody over the courier, tomorrow the guy's unhappy, he has to return, they're not used. So many things is bridged by today's e-commerce technologies and functionalities. At the second, on the buyer side, it's a discovery tool. As Devin says, more and more people in Malaysia, everywhere, are looking for parts online, especially in the premium sector. Because I think there was one question, how can someone find parts for a much older car? So they come to something like SpareXHub. If you don't have the parts on our site, you can leave a request, you can leave your details, or if you use our filters, we will know what you were looking for, and we get back to you with sourcing the parts as well. And we aggregate the parts in the region. So parts might be sitting in Thailand. There might be a model in Jakarta looking for a part, but they can't find it in Indonesia, like that. So technology brings this, to the table. It makes it all visible. And I think in today's pandemic, as you rightly said, Nordin, people are buying things online they never thought they would buy online. Short of even, in India, you can order a wife on through a matchmaking service. Now that matchmaking service is online. So, the habits are moving. The new norm will change the way we work. And I think our timing is good because the issue you raised, people now have a platform where they can discovery on price, where the part is coming from. It's a trusted source. All these issues they had before, which we try to build into the business. Another question you asked is about workshops. Workshops now depend on customers who can find them, and your friendly neighborhood. But you might have a specialist sitting in somewhere in Kuantan, who the guy in KL doesn't know. But we can bridge that gap through B2B and B2B2C models. So technology has changed the way the game is being played, and I think this pandemic has brought everything into focus. And large fleet owners today are happy that, under the MCO, they can operate. And one question you raised was, how does it benefit dealers? When I show my revenue spikes on a monthly or weekly basis, you can clearly see the spike goes higher when the lockdown is most severe. And what does it tell us? That, people will buy online if they have no choice. So I've answered, I think, some of your broad questions.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I get excited when I see. Actually, at the beginning of the show, I was like, okay, how do we get all this done, and how do we start to really cook this thing that people can understand? But the more and more, and I appreciate everyone's questions. How would car manufacturers? I think Chong has asked us this, and insurance recognize the genuine used parts, and this kind of. I think this is, again goes back to that question of trust.
Yeah.
How does your system deal with that, or just the fact that you've got a history of buying the right part? Is that part of it?
David? Yeah.
When you talk about insurance, the repairers they're not obliged to only use genuine. They're given a budget, and to repair, make good a repair within that certain amount given. And very often, if you're in business, you'd go for what's available at the lowest, price point. What we have done with the parts that we carry, and these are the surplus parts for parts which are often for cars which are often post warranty, is to give the 300 over insurance company an opportunity to buy a genuine part low, and have their markups, have their margins, and certainly satisfy the repairs within their budget, within Bank Negara's guidelines of putting a car back to to a roadworthy condition, and what more with genuine parts. So I think then there would be no questions arise if you need to use a used part when you have a new part, which is probably cheaper than an aftermarket. And as we mentioned, these are all from trusted source. You mentioned just now about what is our vision with these parts. Eventually, as Brahma mentioned, all this is going to be a virtual warehouse for any manufacturer, franchise dealer who wish to put their genuine parts online. And consumers, buyers who are increasingly online would just choose and buy whatever which meets their budget. And the budget is going to be even cheaper than, this cost of these parts than an OEM or an aftermarket. So I think that it's a no-brainer. It's something of value. It's discounted from the manufacturer, from the suppliers. And I think suddenly it's a new game for many.
Mm-hmm. No, nice, very nice. Is it possible? Let's say I'm down in, my repair shop, and I say, look, the guy tells me, look, this is the thing that needs to be fixed, and I just get on your website and say, hey, it should only cost $500, or hey, it should only cost $600. Is that something consumers now can do?
I think consumers certainly now they're certainly more resourceful. They're questioning repairs as well. Why is this not changed? Why are you knocking back this panel? So I think they are more empowered today. They know their rights, and they're going to put pressure back on the repairers to search and source genuine parts, and make good these parts. Imagine if you've had a repair done outside, and they've used second-hand parts because that was all the budget that the insurance had approved, and this consumer went online and found a whole front bumper available for cheaper than what was quoted. That's the last time he's ever going to trust that brand of insurance, or the last time he's ever going back to that collision repairer.
Exactly. So there's a huge amount of transparency that's going to be created by and I think that's one of the things that a global trend right now, a global trend towards transparency, a global trend towards consumer protection. And I think this is something that you guys have really jumped on very early, like what you said. Now, gentlemen, our time, we were scheduled for half an hour. We're already over that, but I want to give you all one last bite of the cherry. In closing, in your 30, if I give you 30 seconds or a minute, Ahillan, give us what people should be looking out for, and what do you think from today?
Yeah, I think, I'll just quickly answer 2-3 questions I've been monitoring under the radar. So I think one young lady was asking about how we remain competitive. We remain competitive by having a very low cost base. So arguably our pricing is probably very much probably in the very much in the lowest part of the bracket in the parts and genuine parts business. And there's also a few other things about emerging technologies and also electrification. I suppose in our kind of business or in any business really, yes, there are definitely future trends which we will embrace, but we'll also pivot and evolve to new market environments as the car industry develops as well. That's for me. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much. Rama, over to you. Tell us in closing, what is it you want to share?
I won't say I'm a car person like David and my other co-founders. I've loved driving good cars, but in my youth, I drove almost all the cars I would love to have driven. But coming back into this business with the technology background that I have over 35, 40 years, I think it has come one suit, as I mentioned, the pandemic and the state of the new norm has allowed new emerging technologies to take foot. Actually, my main interest is in education and online learning. I've been talking about this for the last 10 years that, young learners don't want to go to school, don't want to go to college. They want to just work, study, and earn a living while they learn. Today, that's a reality. Brick and mortar colleges don't last. So if you look at it from that point of view, the whole distribution model, the supply chain for spare parts, especially genuine spare part, will be disrupted. And I think combined with the expertise with the co-founders like Devindran and his two consultants, our industry partners like SIMW Motors, I think we will bring the best algorithm to make sure that the supply side take advantage of the best ROI instead of leaving a part on the shelf. On the buying side, they get the best deal in terms of discovery and getting the part they desire within a budget. And I think technology is ready today and it's literally cost effective to deliver. So our ability to scale will be exponential. This problem is in every country, this problem of surplus parts building up.
Lovely.
1 minute.
Your 1 minute elevator pitch, brilliant.
Yes.
I'm going to make it difficult for Devindran because Devindran, you and I played cricket many years ago, and you're still doing pretty well out there, I hear. You've got to give us a cricket analogy as well as a wrap up for today's show.
Well, if it's cricket, it's long term. We're not here for the short term gain. We're going to play a long innings match. We've got a strong team. I wanted to say about our team of 11. We almost have 11. That is how lean we are. We've got a team of shareholders who've got very strong expertise in their own domain. We've got a very young, enthusiastic team who work on social media, on sales, marketing. And today, with the knowledge that we have and we share, they are about the best guys who understand inventory, spare parts. And that's why we also provide services of expert advice, recommendation of workshops. We'd encourage friends, customers out there, just ask us something. If you doubt a quality of a part, if you want some price discovery, reach out to us. We have a strong team who would be most happy to assist you. And we pride on and trying to be the best in this segment. Finally, Nordin, and I must say, I think what we are solving is not a national problem. It's not a brand problem. It is a global problem, industry problem. So as a Malaysian company, started up here, made up of Malaysians, and slowly scaling up with partners, both we're hoping to do some work in Indonesia and in Thailand soon. I think this is something everyone can be proud of. It's a whole worldwide industry about surplus parts, no transparency, no price discovery, and the consumers are demanding it already. So I encourage everyone. Thank you so much, Nordin, for putting this together, and it helps share our story and the message that we want to achieve.
Really, my pleasure, gentlemen, and I'm really happy to see that you've brought disruption, positive disruption. You're bringing transparency and making consumers' lives better with an innovative technology. And it's great to be a homegrown company that is going to take on the world. So, congratulations to you all, as well as the rest of the team at SpareXHub. I've been Luckily, we've got this for you guys. For those who want to get in touch with the team, here are the contact details. And you're able to reach out to the team and get things done. So with that, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you again next week on A Working Lunch with Nordin.
Thank you.
Our pleasure, Nordin.
Thanks, guys.